So today we'll be starting our unit number 3 under business regulations, competition and consumer laws. So in this chapter we're going to study in detail two different acts, that is the Competition Act and the Consumer Act. So let's begin with the Consumer Protection Act of 1986. Introduction. This act consumer was enacted or begin in the year 1986. What is the basic purpose? As the act itself says, Consumer Protection Act. So basically to protect and provide a better protection to the interest of consumers. So that is the objective or purpose why this entire act is come into scope. The act gives full freedom to consumer in getting legal protection. So in the past we have seen any cases, any consumer has filed a case against any food products or any kind of commodities, any default or damage that have been found or have been affected by it, have always allowed to go legal upon the company. So this act gives what? Full freedom to consumers in getting legal protection. No court fees, no stamp duties, whatever may be the amount involved in a complaint for settlement disputes. Otherwise, if you have to go about a land dispute or any other property dispute that you have, there's going to be a lot of procedure and a lot of expense involved. But in case of Consumer Protection Act, there's no such extra expenditures involved in submitting your complaint for the settlement. It provides establishment for various consumer protection councils and readdressal agencies. As we told, now if you have a complaint or if you have an issue with a certain product or a medicine or any food commodity, you can always go approach these agencies called as Consumer Protection Council, where you can go file a complaint or file an issue that you are facing with regard to the product or the commodity. Let's look at few of the definitions under the Act which has been defined. Who is a consumer? As the Act focuses on consumer protection, who is a consumer? According to Section 2, Subsection 1 and Clause D, any person who buys any goods against consideration is a consumer. So if you're buying a product in a provisional store or any shop, right, you pay money, that's called as consideration, and you receive the good, that is purchase of goods or commodities, that person is called as who? Consumer. Who purchases the goods in exchange for what? Consideration, means in exchange for money. Deficiency. According to Section 2, Subsection 1 and Clause G, deficiency in relation to any service means any fault, imperfection, shortcoming or inadequacy in the quality, nature and the manner of performance which is required to maintain under the law. So a product that is manufactured by a certain company or service rendered by a certain company is expected to be under certain quality, right? A quality product or quality service. When it is not up to the mark, that means if there is any default or any damage in the product, right, or any kind of imperfections or inadequacy in the quality is not as it is promised, okay, or the good which is performed to supposed to perform certain action is not performing accordingly. All such conditions or circumstances the Act defines as deficiency. That means the purpose for which the good was created or commodity was manufactured has not been met. Either the commodity has some fault or error in it, or the quality is not maintained, or the performance of the product or commodity is not up to the mark. So the Act defines that condition as what, or the circumstance as deficiency. Number 3, service. Service of any description which is made available to potential users. So there are various types of services, right? It can have tourism, transport, doctoral services or lawyer services or teacher services. All these comes under what? service, not goods, but it covers under service. So service of any description which is made available to potential users. Number 4, consumer dispute. It refers to a dispute where the person against to whom a complaint has been made denies or disputes the allegations contained in the complaint. So consumer dispute means if you are the person who's having some issue, right, with the product or with the commodity, you go and file a complaint or a dispute against the manufacturing company. So the consumer or the customer who has filed such a case or a complaint is called as consumer dispute. Number 5, restrictive trade practices. It means any trade practices which requires a consumer to buy, hire or avail any goods, as the case may be services, as conditions may be restricted in goods, as considered as unfair products. Now, as the name itself says, restrictive means what? Something that is not agreeable by the law, something the act does not encourage. But then the trade practices is following something that is prohibited by the law or by the government of the country. Okay, so consumer, if he has to purchase weapons which is not allowed, only governments can purchase weapons, or let's say only the government of India, that is the RBI, only can print the currency. If there's anybody else who's printing and the currency is in circulation, it is called as what? Restrictive practices. Okay, so that way if there's any consumer who want to buy or avail the goods using what? Conditions or practices which is prohibited by the law, such trade practices are called as restrictive trade practices. Is that clear? Even piracy or selling of series or movie even before its release, it is amounted to what? Restrictive trade practices. Is that clear? Next comes unfair trade practices. It means trade practices for the purpose of promoting the sale, use of supply of any goods, or for the provision of any service adopts any unfair method like. Now, unfair trade practices are just for the purpose of promoting the sales or profit, okay, or to supply the goods on a larger scale. These are the methods which are being used, which is really not fair. That means false representation of goods and services. That means the true nature of the product is not revealed, but then you are falsely representing it so that sales are being made, profits are being earned. Exactly, that's called as false representation of goods and services. Misleading of consumer about the product. So I'm basically misleading the consumer. I'm not telling what about exactly about the product to be communicated, but I'm misleading the consumer. I'm convincing him in such a way that he ends up buying up the commodity. Giving false warranty. So we've in detail we have studied what is conditions and what are warranties. So giving us false warranty just to make sales. The more positive things you tell about a particular product or commodity, of course the consumer is going to be very impressed. Yes, I want to buy the product. It gives so many benefits and so many warranties, I definitely want to buy the product. So basically the sellers or the manufacturers lure the consumers into making more sales. Misstatement given on a product, something that the product does not function for, perform for, they're giving a misstatement upon the product. Higher prices for less quantities. We have always seen this, right? Whenever, especially when you're purchasing fruits and vegetables, where they weigh in that weighing machine, right, or maybe truck goods or somewhere there, they always attach some magnet under the weighing machine, correct? If you have observed, if you have seen, even in the movies you can connect there, they're giving, you are paying a higher price for a lesser quantity. So that means they are using unfair trade practices. Then unfair activities in the quantity of the product. So we have always seen in terms of if you're buying a rice of 25 kgs of a packet or a bag, right, they put in small amount of quantity of stones and less of rice, so that the total weight of that 25 kgs comes up to 25. Even though not exactly 25 kgs might be there inside the rice bag, but due to some addition of some other items into it, that means the quantity that unfairly you're adding into it, the weight comes back to 25. Is that clear? So these are the list, or these are the ways which suppliers or manufacturers trade with unfair trade practices. So these are the 6 different definitions provided under the Act. Let's look at what are the rights. Now, you and me as a consumer, what are the kinds of rights we have under the Consumer Protection Act? It is mentioned under Section 6. First one is a right to safety. As we always, whenever we buy any kind of goods or services, we believe the goods are safe, the goods are secure, correct? So the first right is right to safety. The right to be protected against marketing of goods and services which are hazardous to life and property. It is to ensure physical safety of the consumers. So basically we are talking about whoever is consuming the product or using the commodity is safe after using it. Is that clear? It ensures the physical safety of the consumer, not create any kind of hazardous or any kind of damage to either the person's life or the person's property. Example, A bought an insecticide from B. So B did not inform A that touching this insecticides with bare hands can create skin problem. Now usually these are always handled with putting up a glasses, or you need to have some kind of other holding thing for the packet to use. Now A has bought it from B, but B has not informed him that whenever you're going to use this product, you need to put on the glasses, or you need to protect your skin before you use the product. So once A purchases it and started using it, he turns up to have some kind of skin allergies or skin issues. So now who is liable? Is A liable? No. It was B's responsibility to give the information that this is not safe in directly using it. So make sure you take the precautionary measures and then use it for your own safety, correct? So B did not inform about the safety measures to be taken by the consumer A. Therefore, who is going to be held liable in this act or in this example? B is going to held liable. B is the seller here and A is the buyer. So B is going to be held liable under the Act Consumer Protection. Got it? So that's the first right, right to safety. Second, right to information. The right to be informed about the quality, quantity, purity, standard, price of goods and services as the case may be, so as to protect the consumer against unfair trade practices. Fixing of ISI mark and UG mark. Now here right information is any product that you buy, from a small chocolate or you're going to buy a washing machine, anything in between two household items, there's always information that is provided on the packaging of the product. Have you gone through? Either it can be that every day that we use a milk packet, right? Or it can be a chocolate, or it can be a phone, or you're buying some electronic good. Upon the packet of the good, various information will be provided. If it is a food, then it will be provided what are the ingredients added, what is the manufacturing date, what is the expiry date, how much quantity, is it half kg per the packet, or is it 500 grams, or is it 1 kg, how pure is it, how standard is it, what is the price of the good, by what time should we consume this good, etc. All these details must be provided when you manufacture the goods and services. Now ISI mark and UG mark, we have always been familiar with these marks, especially in terms of food products, something that we consume, correct? So the second important right is right to information. As a consumer, I have every right to be informed about the product when it is manufactured, who is manufacturing it, right? The company name and address must be mentioned. In case there is any grievance, they will also mention a number or a postal address to post your complaint or report your issue. Number 3, right to choose. The right to be assured, wherever possible, access to a variety of goods and services at competitive prices. Fair and effective competition must be encouraged. As we have today, to the growing population, there is a growing market and demand. There's numerous products that is offered, right? If you take a cell phone, there are so many companies that manufacture cell phone, right? From a basic phone that has a keypad to a touchscreen phone to an iPad to an iPhone, etc. Or you have with the food products. If you just talk about a cool drink or a soft drink, there's so many companies that manufacture perfumes. There's so many companies that manufacture. So as a consumer, I cannot be forced to purchase a particular type of product. I always have the right to choose. Out of so many alternatives and substitutes in the market, it is completely my right or my choice to choose what kind of product or service would I like to purchase or enjoy. Is that clear? So that's my third right, right to choose. Fourth one, right to be heard. The right to be heard assured that consumers' interests will receive due consideration to appropriate forum. So that's why any kind of complaints against any products, especially with terms to food products or let's say medicine. Now that we are having COVID-19 vaccine being prepared across the globe, right? Each countries are taking up initiative in providing or finding out the right vaccine for COVID-19. There are people who are volunteering to take up the vaccine, and after that, whatever consequences the body bears, there should be hospitals and there should be organization ready to hear and take care of them. Correct? Same ways, any consumer who is going to file a complaint or as an issue, consumer has the right to be heard. Nobody can, once the complaint is filed, the court cannot say no, this is very negligible, we don't have to discuss about it. No, the consumer has the right to be heard in the court of law. The famous thing that we have heard about the Maggie thing, right? If you remember, there was a case that there is a lead content in the Maggie, right? When they prepare whatever that the raw material what they use, there is a lead content in it, right? So this was a case or this was an issue that we have heard, and though market Nestle had lost market with Maggie for few months, a couple of months, but they came back with enough evidence or enough proof that all the safety measures is taken up, and today still the company Nestle has a growing market under Maggie. Number 5, right against exploitation. Right to seek redressal against unfair trade practices. When consumers are exploited, adequate remedy must be made available. That means consumers are forced into taking up low quality food products, okay, low quality commodities, or forced to buy only certain companies or certain brand products or services. That is called as exploitation. I am forcing something upon the consumers. So consumers have the right against, that means I cannot be forced into purchasing certain product or being purchasing only one particular company or one particular brand. It is completely consumers right or a choice to make which company's goods to purchase or what types of services to enjoy, etc. Right to education. The right to consumer education is a right which ensures the remedies available to them. So if you are not aware that, if you can raise a voice against the loss that you have suffered or an allergy that you have suffered because of consuming certain medicine or certain food product, it is to be educated. Unless and until you know that you can voice and raise your opinion or file a complaint and take it legal so that others are not having the same health issue as you after consuming certain product. So that is called as a right to education. So consumer education is very important. So every time that we purchase certain food products, we ought to read the ingredients and to know at least the basic thing to how long can we use. Even makeup products or even any products beyond expiry date, if you're using it, there can be rashes or there can be skin allergies. So it is the right to education. The consumer must be educated about if he suffers any damage, what is the legal action he can take against the company. Understood? So we have completed the various definitions of the Consumer Act and the 6 different rights of Consumer Act.